Huh! This does not make any sense. I had gone out for some shopping in a part of town I rarely visited when I suddenly saw something that stopped me in my tracks. My husband. Walking arm in arm with my mother. Not just walking, they were smiling at each other, laughing, completely comfortable. Then, right in front of everyone, they kissed. My heart nearly stopped. Shocked beyond words, I rushed toward them, demanding an explanation. But instead of looking guilty or trying to deny it, they just smirked, acting as if nothing was wrong. I could not even process what was happening. My own mother. My own husband. Together. That same day, I went straight to my father and told him everything. Divorce was the only option, and I made sure to cut them both out of my life. But as if life had not already thrown enough at me, my father passed away not long after. And just when I thought I would never have to see those two again, I ran into them. I had not seen my mother in a long time, but when I did, I immediately noticed something: her loose-fitting clothes and the unmistakable swell of her belly. She caught my stare and, instead of looking ashamed, she smiled. "Oh my, have you noticed?" she said, her tone dripping with triumph. "I am expecting. Unlike you, I had no trouble conceiving. It did not take long at all." I barely had time to react before Raymond, my ex-husband, added with a smug grin. "Now I can finally be a father. I am glad I left you. They were deliberately trying to hurt me. They wanted to see me break. But unfortunately for them, their words meant nothing to me anymore." Instead, I burst out laughing, clutching my stomach. "You two look ridiculous." They were taken aback. I could see it in their faces. They expected me to cry, to scream, to lash out. But I did not. Because they were not worth it. Let me back up. My name is Olivia, and I am 24 years old. I work in an office, just trying to make a decent life for myself. My parents had me young, too young. It was a classic shotgun marriage situation. My mom was still in high school when she met my dad, who was 4 years older than her. She got pregnant, and despite everyone telling her she was making a mistake, she pushed for marriage. Looking back, I think my father never really had a choice. At first, it seemed like they made it work. My dad was young, but he tried his best. I remember being in kindergarten, holding his hand as he picked me up from school. "Olivia's dad is so cool," my classmates would say. And I agreed. I adored him. But everything changed after the accident. My dad was working construction, dismantling scaffolding when he fell. The injuries were serious: multiple fractures, internal damage, and a long, painful recovery process. He survived, but he was never the same. And just like that, my mother turned on him. She refused to take him to the hospital. She refused to help him with rehab. If he struggled, if he fell, she would step over him instead of helping him up. "What a pathetic excuse for a man," she would sneer. "I should have married someone better." It was like she resented him for not being useful anymore. The way she treated him disgusted me. I grew closer to my father, while my mother grew more distant. She worked night shifts, barely paid attention to me, and made it clear she did not care. By the time I graduated high school, she told me to get a job to support the family. I had no choice. I started working right away at a small local company. "I'm sorry, Olivia," my father had told me, ashamed. "If I was healthy, this burden would not be on you." "Do not say that," I assured him. "I do not mind. I will do whatever it takes to help." I did it for him. Not for her. Eventually, I got used to working, and a few years later, I met Raymond. He was my co-worker, charming and dependable. Unlike my parents' cold marriage, I thought we could build something warm and loving. "I will take care of you, Olivia," he had promised. "We will be happy, and we will have lots of kids." I believed him. But a year into our marriage, the kids never came. No matter how long we waited, nothing happened. I started to feel anxious, but instead of being supportive, Raymond turned on me. "What is wrong with you?" he started saying. Everyone else has kids by now. Why can't you? You are failing as a wife. I tried to tell him it was not just my issue. Come with me to the doctor, I pleaded. We should both get checked. Why should I? He scoffed. I am healthy. It is obviously your problem. That was the beginning of the end. Raymond stopped coming home at night. His excuses became flimsier. And then, the little signs started appearing. The perfume on his clothes. The unexplained expenses on our credit card. I wanted to confront him, but I knew he would just lie. Then, one day, I had a day off and went shopping in a different part of town. That was when I saw him. I was about to call out to him when I noticed he was not alone. My mother was walking beside him. They were smiling, holding hands. And then, right in front of me, they kissed. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. What the hell? I blurted out. They finally noticed me. Raymond looked annoyed. My mother? Smug. Oh, Olivia, she said, pretending to be surprised. Why are you so upset? Are you kidding me? What are you two doing? Nothing, she said casually. We just happened to run into each other. It has been a while, so we grabbed coffee. What is the big deal? She was lying. I knew it. Then I caught something, her perfume. It was the exact same scent I had smelled on Raymond's clothes before. I did not want to believe it. I hated the thought. But it all made sense now. Do not lie to me, I said, my voice shaking. I saw you kissing. Raymond sighed. Then, to my shock, he smirked. Damn, I did not think you would catch on so soon, he admitted. I thought you were too slow to notice. I stared at him, horrified. You, what? Honestly, Olivia, older women are just better, he said, shrugging. Your mother? She gets me. She listens. She understands what I need. We have a real connection. Besides, my mother chimed in. Raymond was miserable with you. Yeah, he agreed. You cannot even have kids. You are broken, Olivia. It was like a nightmare. Like something out of a twisted soap opera. I had given this man everything. And this was how he repaid me? I took a deep breath, looked them both in the eye, and said the only thing I could. You two disgust me. And I meant every single word. You should be ready for what's coming. As soon as I said that, my mother's expression darkened for a moment, but she quickly forced herself to smile again, acting as if she was still in control. Oh, please. You have no proof of anything. She scoffed. If you want to divorce Raymond, go ahead. That's your business. But as for me? I'll get divorced when I decide, not when you tell me to. Then, without another word, she turned to Raymond. Come on, let's go. And just like that, they walked away, arm in arm, leaving me standing there. Unlike Raymond, who was eager to be rid of me, my mother had no intention of divorcing my father anytime soon. I refused to let it slide. I went straight to my father's house and told him everything. He sat in silence for a while, absorbing the words. Then, finally, he spoke. Even after all these years, I never thought she would betray her own daughter like this. His voice was heavy, filled with disappointment. I put up with her for so long because I thought you needed your mother. But maybe I was wrong. I swallowed hard. Dad, I'm divorcing Raymond. After what he's done, there's no way I can stay with him. But what about you? What will you do about Mom? He let out a slow breath and looked at me with a resolve I had not seen before. Don't worry. I have a plan. I won't let them get away with this. The divorce with Raymond was finalized quicker than I expected. He did not even fight for anything, just mailed me the signed divorce papers like I was nothing. As for my mother? She never came back home. Instead, she and Raymond ran away together, cutting ties with everyone. I was furious. But my father told me to let them go. They're not worth it, he said. And so, I focused on moving forward. I left the apartment I had shared with Raymond and moved back home. To my surprise, my father had become much more independent. Without my mother around, he had learned to manage on his own. Ironically, her neglect had forced him to become stronger. "I'm glad we can live together again, Olivia," he told me one night. "Even though things turned out this way, I'm happy to have you here." For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. But that peace did not last. One day, out of nowhere, my father fell seriously ill. The doctor said it was pneumonia, and before I knew it, he was fighting for his life. I spent every moment at his side, holding his hand, praying for him to get better. "I'm sorry," he whispered one night, his voice weak. "I forced you to endure so much. From now on, live for yourself, Olivia." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Then, in the blink of an eye, he was gone. I could not believe it. I had lost the one person who had always been there for me. I was still in the middle of planning his funeral when something unbelievable happened. They showed up. My mother and Raymond came waltzing into the house, acting like they belonged there. "Long time no see," my mother said casually. "I heard he died." They both had disgusting smirks on their faces, like they were here for entertainment. I clenched my fists. "Get out." "Who do you think you are?" my mother sneered. "I'm his wife. When a husband dies, it's only natural for the wife to be here." I could not believe what I was hearing. "You left him. You abandoned him for years. How can you even say that?" "Ah, yes, yes." She waved me off. "Say whatever you like. But no matter how much you whine, I'm still his widow. That means I'm entitled to a share of his property." And there it was. The real reason she was here. Money. My father had spent years working hard, building a career despite his injuries. Even though he had no formal education, he had been well respected, and he had saved a decent amount over the years. And now, the woman who despised him wanted to cash in. I was about to tell her exactly what I thought when I noticed something strange. She was wearing loose-fitting clothes, and her stomach was swollen. My eyes widened in shock. She noticed and smiled. "Oh, I see you figured it out." She patted her belly with a smug look. "Yes, Olivia, I'm pregnant. Unlike you, I had no trouble getting pregnant. I had a baby right away. I guess that means the problem was you all along." Raymond chuckled beside her. "Yeah, I'm glad I left you. Now I can finally be a father." They wanted to see me hurt. They wanted me to break down. But instead I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Their smug faces twisted in confusion. "Hey, what's so funny?" Raymond asked, frowning. I wiped a tear from my eye and shook my head. "You two are absolute idiots." Their expressions darkened. "What the hell do you mean by that?" my mother snapped. I folded my arms and gave them a pitying look. "Are you sure that baby is Raymond's?" Raymond's face twisted in irritation. "What kind of stupid question is that?" "But my mother?" Her face changed. For the first time, she looked nervous. Her hands fidgeted, her eyes darted around, but Raymond, clueless as always, did not seem to notice. "Of course it's his," she snapped. "You're just bitter and jealous." "Oh, am I?" I smirked. "Then why don't you take a look at this?" I pulled out a document and held it up in front of them. They leaned in, and the second their eyes landed on the words, their faces drained of color. What is this?" my mother stammered. Raymond grabbed the papers and started reading frantically. It was an investigative report from a private detective. You see, after my mother ran off with Raymond, I had seen her on the street. But she was not with Raymond. She was with another man. And I had seen them enter a hotel together. I followed up with a professional investigator, and guess what? She had another boyfriend the entire time. Raymond snapped his head toward her. "What the hell does this mean?" "It's nothing," she shrieked. "Olivia's just trying to turn you against me." Raymond's hands shook as he stared at her. For once in his life, he was thinking. "Who do I believe?" he muttered. You, or Olivia? My mother gasped, then laughed bitterly. Oh, come on, Raymond. You really think she's telling the truth? Raymond hesitated. And that was all it took. I smirked. If you're so sure, why don't you take a paternity test? My mother froze. Raymond's face went pale. And I knew I had won.